Hey YouTube, what's happening? Chris here. I want to bring you all an update on Bitcoin. Right now we're testing around that $4,000 area, so that's why I wanted to get this out. What we're going to be doing today, we're going to be going over my bullish targets, my bearish targets, some things I wrote out, and then guys, we're just going to kind of formulate a plan and see what we come up with in terms of how many things we have bullish, how many things bearish, neutral, this or that, and where Bitcoin might go. So that's what we're going to dig into. If you guys like these videos, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I appreciate each and every one of you. And if you haven't checked out my tutorials, guys, if you really want to learn something about charting or whatnot, check out my tutorials in the playlist. Been doing some of those, and people have really been learning some stuff. It's straight out of the books, you know, Thomas Bulkowski, some of the other greats, so it's a lot of stuff you can really learn. So just want to point you in that direction. We're going to dig into Bitcoin here. So guys, on the bullish scenario, what I'm seeing here, the number one thing that I'm really happy about is that bullish golden cross here is taking place of the 50 moving average over the 100-day moving average, and we're getting a little bit of follow through there, so that's good that we're still pointing up, still moving up. That's number one thing that I'm looking at. Number two, I'm happy that we're up above and we've been respecting this 20-day EMA. That's something that we do want to hold in the long term. All right, so back here through that bear market that we've been in, that 20 EMA was acting as very strong overhead resistance as we were making those moves and making those higher lows. And guys, now that we've switched the trend and we've gotten on top of it, that's something that we want to try to hold the best that we can. But what we're doing, we're running into a point now to where we're either going to lose that 20 EMA or we potentially could fail up here at this trend line like we had here where we wicked up to it, or we're going to get through that. And when you break out of these trend lines sometimes, like this overhead one, guys, you want it to be on volume. There's a lot of false breakouts, so really pay attention to it on volume. See it, make sure it gets through this trend line and has a nice close up above it with good confirmation. And really pay attention to if we're going to run up and then have a pullback back onto it before we run further. That's an option. Sometimes you just run straight, and other times it's a broken pattern. You can actually fall down through. Been reading a lot about broken patterns from Thomas Bulkowski in the Encyclopedia of Chart Patterns, and it's amazing how you can actually make money, and some of the best money, off broken patterns. So really keep that in mind. We're still, guys, another bullish thing, we're still in this symmetrical triangle. We've been working in here. There's not a lot of white space, so we've been chopping around, which makes it even more significant. And now we're just going to have to see in this symmetrical triangle if we're going to break to the upside or if we're going to break to the downside. And remember, to the upside here, this red box that I have is pretty strong overhead resistance, so we're going to have to pay attention to that as well if we do get a break out of here, how we're going to respond to this red box right in that range for that overhead resistance. So keep that in mind. Another thing, guys, I wanted to turn on is the RSI and the MACD, and the RSI has been actually looking pretty good here for Bitcoin, which is nice. And one thing I wanted to point out that I don't know if a lot of people are really paying close attention to, but this trend line down here, this lower trend line where we've been having higher lows, that is very significant that we keep this trend line and continue to move up. We started this trend line back here in November of 2018, and we've held it all this time on the RSI. So that's definitely something we want to find support. If we were to come back down here again, we want to find support on this trend line and keep that moving. If not, then most likely, guys, we would have that break to the downside. So really keep that in mind. But we're at 63 on the RSI right now, which is looking pretty good. So, you know, that's a nice strong number, and it's starting to curl up a little bit. So we got to pay attention to that. And that's kind of just coinciding with what's happening with these candles. And you can see these candles have been really tight. There hasn't been a ton of movement in them. We've just been kind of chopping back and forth in a small little range there. Now we're getting to the point where we're going to have to decide if we go to the upside or if we're going to go to the downside. So I definitely put the RSI still in the bullish camp as well. And then let's check out the MACD together and see where we can put that. And guys, with the MACD here, if we really zoom in on it, sorry about that, we are bullish on it. So we did have that cross over that signal line there, the white line. We crossed over the red, which is the signal line, and we've been moving to the upside, but it's not pointing straight up to where we're really getting a good shot out of there, like on good volume. And our RSI has moved up, but it's kind of in that neutral zone. So I would still put this MACD in the bullish camp with definitely more room that it could run to the upside or it could roll over, guys. You got to be aware of that potential as well, but we're at 58 and 51 there on the MACD. So just kind of running neutral on that one. Now, those are our bullish things. So that's our golden cross, the 50 over 100 to recap here. And you can write this stuff down, guys. We're up above the 20 EMA. We're still in the symmetrical triangle. Our RSI is looking bullish so far, and our MACD is neutral to bullish as well. We got that cross. So those are the things that are in the bullish camp. Now in the bearish camp, what we're seeing is the macro trend still is bearish. We have to pay attention to the macro trend. We have overhead resistance here in this red box, which is going to be strong overhead resistance, and we also have this trend line, which is going to be strong overhead resistance that we really need to pay attention to. And also the volume has actually been tailing down here. We're not seeing big volume, and for us to break out of this trend line up here, you would want to see significant volume coming in, you know, today or tomorrow to really push us to the upside through that trend line so we don't get rejected off it and come back down here and then start testing this 50 moving average. You know, those are the more bearish things that I'm seeing. I would say the macro trend, the overhead resistance that we have, the overhead trend line that we still need to break out of, and the volume. So, you know, in terms of if you're adding up indicators, then the Bollinger Bands are about neutral, guys, because we've been so tight in there. So, you know, we are kind of neutral here, where we're a little more bullish, but there's also still bearish signs that are taking place as well. So this is kind of, for me, that no trade zone until I find out which way we're going to go. You know, are we going to break out of here? I want to see some type of significant move before I really start jumping into anything. I know some guys are shorting at the 4,000 here, but I would just like to see what happens with a few more candles. That's just me. I'm a more conservative trader, but I think you can't really ever go wrong if you're sitting in cash and you're paying attention and patiently waiting for the market to move so that you can react to it. And if you're able to play both sides of the market, it really doesn't matter, because say you're out and a huge spike comes in and it looks like it's just one of those false breakouts, you can hit it on the backside for a scalp short and move forward, you know, and you didn't miss anything. So that's the importance of being able to play both sides of the market. And you know, guys, there's really not a high percentage of traders that will play both sides of the market. So it's something that you want to learn and you want to put in your tool belt so that it really doesn't matter what the price does. All you need is volatility. You know, that's what I'll tell people, that all I need is some volatility. That's what I'm looking for. Days like this, you know, there's really not a ton of volatility. So it's more when you're patient and you just wait for those big breaks, when you have candles that really break down hard here, or you have these really high runs like that, guys. And we saw this shooting star candle here and all these wicks, the tweezer tops, which was indication that we'd get pushed down farther. We got pushed down into a bullish engulfing candle where we pushed up into a doji with a continued followation here with almost like a bearish engulfing candle that was really strong, and we got pushed down to the downside to a doji into a bullish engulfing candle, and you could see this almost 5-wave pattern that broke out into a bearish engulfing candle, and now we've just been kind of moving sideways to up a little bit. And that's what you want to pay attention to. I mean, look at this doji down here when we were going to try to test this 50. So the more that you learn about candles and candlesticks and all that, it's kind of like reading music. You'll start to see these things and understand when to potentially short or when to potentially long. Even in areas just like this, you can even trade that, and there's some good percentage gains there. So, guys, this is what I want to bring to you. God bless each and every one of you. Let me know down low what you think. Are we more bullish, bearish? What are we going to do with $4,000? Leave it down low. Take care.